Hi everyone, my name is Satish Bakori, and today I'll be talking about the carbon tax and the economic impact that such a measure would hold in the United States today. I'll first go over the detrimental economic conditions that the world is facing today, what a carbon tax looks like applied in British Columbia, the economics behind this mechanism, and then finally I want to evaluate the pros and cons of implementing this regulation in the United States. So let's get started. First off, I want to talk about the economic impact that pollution has on our environment and take a look at the top 10 worst polluters in the world. Looking at the graph, you can see the carbon dioxide concentration has really increased from 1850 to 2015, and the global temperature has also risen because of this. And you can also see that China and the US top this list of the top 10 worst polluters, and they're responsible for nearly half of the world's pollution level. Carbon dioxide, which is primarily produced by burning fossil fuels, is a major contributor to global warming, damaging marine life, and also just causing additional harm to society. Now, I want to talk about pollution from an economic standpoint. Pollution is a negative externality, and there are two important things to keep in mind when discussing these. First, a competitive market produces excessive negative externalities. Because the price of the pollution to the firms right now is zero, which is less than the marginal cost that the last unit of pollution imposed on society, an unregulated competitive market produces more pollution than is socially optimal. Second, the optimal amount of pollution is greater than zero. Even though pollution is harmful and we'd like to have none of it, we can't really wipe it out without eliminating virtually all production and consumption. Now let's dive into what a firm's private costs and social costs mean in terms of dealing with pollution. Firms in the US today don't have to pay for the harm from the pollution they cause. As a result, each firm's private cost, the cost of production only, not including the externalities, includes its direct cost of labor, energy, and raw materials, but not the indirect cost of the harm from pollution. The true social cost is a private cost plus the cost of the harm from externalities. Now we can see from this graph that's pictured, we can see that the MCS, which is the marginal cost of social costs, is a combination of the gunk, which is pollution, and the actual firm private cost. And what it does is it increases prices, which might increase prices for consumption such as fuel in the short run, but it also reduces emissions by a whole lot when actually applied properly. This output tax causes a manufacturer to internalize the externality, to bear the cost of the harm that one inflicts on others. The after-tax private marginal cost or supply curve is the same as the social marginal cost curve, and as a result, the after-tax competitive equilibrium is the social optimum. Now, I want to dive into what a carbon tax really is. A carbon tax is a tax imposed on releases of carbon dioxide, or CO2, which is emitted largely through the combustion of fossil fuels used in electricity production, industrial production, commercial, residential heating, and transportation. And essentially, a carbon tax is a form of pollution tax. It levies a fee on the production, distribution, or use of fossil fuels based on how much their combustion emits, and then the government sets a price per ton on carbon, translating it to a tax on electricity, natural gas, or oil. In British Columbia, the tax, which rose from $10 Canadian per ton in 2008 to about $30 by 2012, it reduced carbon emissions by 5 to 15% with negligible effects on aggregate economic performance. While it made things like fuel more expensive, the byproduct of that was encouraging people to drive less and also be careful about heating and cooling their homes, and businesses also invested in better energy efficiency measures and switched to less polluting fuels. The reason why voters received this carbon tax well is because the government guaranteed that every single tax dollar collected by the carbon tax would be returned to families and businesses through a variety of tax breaks. Even though the short-term effects would be an increase in prices of fuel and other consumer commodities, I believe that at the end of the day, it's important to reduce pollution, and I believe the United States could also implement a measure similar to this and be able to reduce carbon emissions by similar percentages, and also just be able to better the world and also make sure the consumers are living in a safe society today. Thank you guys for listening, and I really hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you.